Good morning, everybody. This is Kathy. You're with Yarn with Heart. It's Friday, November 3rd. Welcome. Today in this yarn chat, I have a blanket, a pair of socks that are finished items, and a shawl that's a work in progress. And the shawl that I just started is something knit this time. I also have a couple of tips that I'm trying out. So those tips are something to experiment with and see how they work over the next couple of weeks. So thank you so much to everyone watching and to anyone who's subscribed and to anybody commenting. I really am surprised by the response, and I am very, very grateful. So thank you for that. The first thing to talk about is a pair of socks. This is my first pair of socks that I have ever made, and I have to thank Judy's Creations and Crochet because she encouraged me to try something. I've wanted to try this for over a year. My goal last year was to make socks for my son and his girlfriend for Christmas, and I didn't have the courage to try it. Judy had a crochet along or a challenge this Sock-tober in October, and I took up the challenge, and this is my first pair of socks that I've ever made. I used a pattern by Premier Kids Crochet Socks, and I'll link that pattern below. I used 2.75 millimeter hook and a Premier Fruits sock yarn in the watermelon version. This is how much yarn I had left from one skein, so it used a good portion of the skein, but I did have quite a significant amount of the yarn left. So I'm pretty excited about this, and using a 2.75 millimeter hook was a challenge for me at first. This was a toe up sock, so once I had finished the toe on the first one, I kind of got the hang of using that small of a hook, and then the rest of the sock. I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was much less of a challenge. So I would say if you've never made socks before, give it a try. I really surprised myself by how I could do it, and I wish I hadn't have put it off for that year. So I'm encouraging you, give it a try and see how it goes. So that was my first finished object this week. My other finished object is a blanket pattern. This one is the Hearts Baby Blanket. It was by Hortense from Knitting with Chopsticks. This pattern is free on the blog. Also, it's available on Ravelry, and I used a 5 millimeter hook and Bon Bon Classic yarn in red and in pink, a little bit of pink for the border, and I'll stand back so you can see the blanket. So it's bordered all in the heart pattern, and coming forward so you can see one of the hearts. It's in filet crochet. There we go. I was very happy that this pattern had, in addition to the words for the instruction, it also had a diagram. So I was very happy that I could use the diagram, and I enjoyed this pattern. It worked out very nicely. I enjoyed it a lot. with this pattern, oh, 1 second. I didn't turn on my light. 1 second. There. Okay, let me show you this again. There you go. Well, that was unexpected. Here. Oh. Okay. For my work in progress, so I didn't have my ring light on. Okay, sorry about that. For my work in progress, I found a knitting pattern, and I'm pretty new to knitting. I've done a little bit, but I do want to practice and learn more with knitting. So I found a pattern, and it's called, let me read this here. May I Borrow This Please? It's a shawl by Lorraine Waitman. It's free on Ravelry, and I'm using a 6mm needle and Karen Simply Soft Stripes in Jersey Shore. So this is what I've done so far in this pattern. I'm interested to see, because it stripes, as each section of this shawl, as I work each section of this shawl, what the stripe pattern will do. It's changing over each section. Now my tips as far as this was, when I first was working the shawl, it was curling quite a bit. I increased my needle size and it stopped some of the curl, but what I ended up doing was I added three knit stitches on one side. I left the other side plain, and it seems to stop some of that curling. If anybody has suggestions about how to make it be flatter and not curl, maybe you can comment or send me an email. I'm really new to knitting, and I didn't know how else to help that situation. The other tip that I have, I've used this quite some time now, for stitch markers with knitting. Often what I will do is I'll take some of my leftover yarn and I will make just a loop and leave a tail on the end, because I find that that gives me something significant to grab onto, but it doesn't drag onto my knitting. So that's my little tip there, as far as something that I've used for stitch markers. Does not work for crochet, but for knitting, that's my my little tip that I often will do. And especially if I need multiple colors, this way I will use one color for the end of my row in a circular pattern, or if I'm using if I need different colors, I can use different pieces of scrap yarn. So those are that's my work in progress and my finished items. The other thing is there's November events that I'm going to be following, and one of them is called the Fall Bliss to Winter Warmth Blog Hop. It's being run by Raylyn from Itching for Some Stitching, and Sarah from Ned and Mimi. It's a blog hop that has free pattern downloads, and I think in total there might be 32 of them. There is also a paid version available for $13.99, and I'm definitely going to be following that. I will probably do the blog hop version of that. And the other November event that I'm jumping in on is called 12 Weeks of Gifting. That's being run both by We Crochet and by Knit Picks, where a free pattern is being put on their sites each week for 12 weeks. And you sign up to be eligible for the download of the pattern. And some of their patterns are interesting to me, so I think I'm going to look at both, especially because I'm new to knitting. I don't have a whole lot of knitting patterns as yet, so I'm looking really carefully at the Knit Picks versions of those. So to everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your crochet, enjoy your knitting, and I hope to see you next Friday. Take care.